hope everyone is very well and everybody had a nice productive day today. And I have come on live to talk about something. Hi Gifty, and thank you for coming on board with me to give me company. Yeah, so today I just wanted to talk about something which everybody at the moment is talking about, and many people who are new to this cash flow business model, rent to rent business model, they wonder whether they should go for rent to rent HMO or whether they should go for rent to rent service accommodation, because if you think about it, they both are cash flow strategies, and this both supposed to provide you with really good steady income. And if anything, the way this rent to rent SA business has been promoted, everybody thinks that it gives you that lucrative income every month, and it's quite a fascinating topic. And I just thought I am famous actually, people who know me well and people who have been listening to me for a while. Hi Gloria, hi Solomon, thank you for coming on board to give me company. Guys, say hello so I know who's watching me. It'll be nice to have you guys company as well. So yeah, it'll be lovely if you guys can interact with me so I know that who's watching. So today I want to talk about this topic, very hot subject, because everybody is saying this SA boom is coming, SA boom is coming. Once this lockdown is over, then people will be looking to go and stay in these places, and these SA units will be, service accommodations will do extremely well. So I just thought I'm going to talk about this strategy today and what's my take on it and what gives me right to talk about it. The reason I'm saying, because I've lived through it. I've had 3 units of which I've used as SA myself, and we rented them before the lockdown. We've lived through the whole this whole lockdown period, and so we know the reality. We know all the goods and bads of this strategy. So I thought I'm going to talk about 7 things today which people should really be paying attention, because what I'm finding, there are so many people at the moment sourcing these rent to rent deals, and people who are looking to start in rent to rent, they're just naively taking deals from sourcers and trusting them, and they are hoping that these deals will provide them with really good cash flow. So I'm just gonna, and it really worries me, because at the end of the day, it's a business strategy, and there are certain legal aspects to it as well which people should really be paying attention to before they commit themselves. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So yeah, I'm just going to wait for a couple more minutes for a couple more people to jump on, so it just gives me company. So if you guys are actually thinking about starting your business, and if you feel that this rent to rent SA business sounds very lucrative and you're going to make loads and loads of money from it, then I'm not trying to put anybody off, because I'm only going to give my take on it, but feel free to make notes. So I'm going to give you some really very I would say very good points which not many people would talk about, because I've lived that life and I know what people should really be looking for, which many people are not really aware. And in fact, I find that many sourcers, they never talk about these things, and and people are so naive. They're putting their hard-earned money into these units, into these SA properties, and they are investing and they're hoping that it will give them great return. So that's why I just thought there are at least 7 things. I'm not talking about contracts and all today, but 7 things that everybody should know about anyway. Okay, so we will start with number 1. Number 1 is when you are taking any deal or any property for your this SA business, what you really need to check, if it is a flat, your apartment, you need to find out, because it's a leasehold property, you need to find out whether a landlord has permission from the freeholder to run that property as a service accommodation or not. Because many a time landlords, they just think, oh, it's a very, very good strategy, because we know that investor or person, whoever is running, is going to take these properties, they will look after, and they don't really tell freeholders what they're trying to do with this deal, with that property, and they just give it to people like us, or investors, not to me, but other investors who are very keen on doing this SA business. Hi Neil, hi Fayaz, thank you for coming on board. Hi Michelle, say hello to me, so I know you guys are watching, and it'll be good to have your company here. So number one is very, very important that you find out that you have freeholders permission. So before you commit yourself for any SA unit, you need to make sure that even before you sign your contract, check that freeholder is giving you permission to run it as a short let, and if possible, in fact, not just if possible, in fact, you should really be asking that permission in writing, so that landlord has been transparent with the freeholder. Because otherwise what will happen, you will invest in that property and you will start running it, and then people who are living in other apartments, whether they're living upstairs or downstairs, they will start complaining, if you're running it as like a service accommodation business. And very soon they will tell the freeholder, and freeholder will then ask you to stop doing your business, and this landlord will be in trouble because they will be given ultimatum. And this happens very, very often. It's a very, very common thing. Landlords, they take this risk, and people like us, we blindly trust them, and when freeholders tell them to stop doing what they're doing, then what these landlords do, they terminate the contract, and we have no choice, and we end up losing money. And this has happened to so many investors, even in Newcastle where I live, because there is one block which is right beside the quayside, and because it's such a good location, many landlords who own apartments in that block, they actually never bother checking with the freeholder, and they just very easily they rented those flats to these SA operators, and a year later, in fact not just a year later, in fact few months later, as soon as freeholder found out about that this is what was happening in the block, he straight away gave ultimatum to the landlords or to the owners, and and they were told to stop the business. And these people who were running SA business, they had to just stop their business because they had no choice, and they ended up losing massive investment. So very, very important thing, because most of these units, they are run as like apartments. You really need to make sure that before you commit yourself, you really check that you have got something in writing that tells you that freeholder has no objection, you running it as a short let, because otherwise you're really just you're just gambling with your money. And it's a business, and don't treat it like a gamble. It's a proper business, so do your due diligence, and this should be part of your due diligence. And this really worries me, because I see so many sourcers advertising properties, and they are apartments, really nice looking apartments, but I never see anybody ever asking that do we have permission from the freeholder, and they don't even realize how important it is. And I just wonder how naive people are. They're just putting their hard-earned cash into that deal, and they are just they're going to start that business, and they hope that it's going to make them loads and loads of money. So it's not quite as simple as that, because I have actually seen it going all pear-shaped in front of my eyes. So definitely make sure that you get that permission. Now number two is, again, it's a common sense based thing, but many people, they don't really check their competition. I mean, check how much competition you have in the area. It's not so much the case for rent-to-rent HMO business model, because local authorities controlling the number of HMO properties are in a certain area or in certain postcode. But with regards to these service accommodations, they are emerging everywhere. So for example, if there is a block with 26 flats, there is a very good possibility, if that block is in the city center or close to city center, at least 7 or 10 apartments will be run as like service accommodation. So you need to next thing you need to check is how much is your competition, because the more competition you have, that means you are going to get less business, and which also means if other people are running same business and if they bring their nightly rate down, that means you will be forced to bring your nightly rate down as well. So it's not quite as easy as they show in when you look at the numbers and when you when you do your due diligence, because the nightly rate that's shown in the deal, that never stays the same because it fluctuates. I mean, you guys must have noticed as well, if you're staying somewhere, even in a hotel or in a service accommodation, if you're staying during the week, prices are different. If you're staying over weekend, then prices are different. Off peak prices are different, and when it's on peak, then it's different. And similarly, the more competition you have, or if there are other apartments in the same block, and if they are charging less money, and maybe because they can afford to charge less money, then you are forced to charge less money as well, and which means your profit that you were initially hoping to make will go down. So make sure that you check. I mean, it's a common sense thing, and I know many people don't check it. Everybody is running after this service accommodation business model, but nobody really looks deeper into it. And sorry, my aim isn't to put people off, but I've seen the reality, and I like to talk the truth. I want to tell people so they make informed decision. In a way, it's good that if there is competition, that tells you that there is demand, but at the same time, you don't really want too many service accommodations units in the same area or in the same block, because then you will have less business. Again, then you have competition, you are then in a war, you are trying to compete with their nightly rate all the time, or you're constantly trying to provide better service, so you're just putting too much pressure on yourself. So always be aware of these things, that how many other service accommodations are there. It is much easier for rent-to-rent HMO business model to find out, because we know that council has control over it, whereas these things are happening without any permission. Landlords are just renting out properties, they don't really ask for any permission. Even when they know that it's like Article 4 area, they very easily they can run it. They think, oh well, another next easy option is that they will just run it, or they will give it to someone and they will run it as a service accommodation. But then if everybody is doing like that, that means how much competition you have in the area. So make sure you're checking that. It's very important. Don't take it lightly, because it's going to affect your nightly rate, and if your nightly rate is down, that means your profit is down as well. And it's a business for you, so you need to make sure that there is enough profit in it for you to make it worthwhile. So that's very important point, because I'm just finding so many people are just running after this rent to rent, and everybody is trying to start this rent-to-rent service accommodation, and I feel that there's going to be such a saturation that people who are already running, they will it's going to ruin the business model for everybody. I think there was a time couple of years ago, 3 years ago, when people, not that many people were in this rent-to-rent service accommodation business model. Then yes, it was a lucrative way, but now since everybody thinks it's a very easy way of getting into this cash flow business, and people are not even doing their numbers very carefully, so they're just agreeing on any rent because they're just blindly trusting that, okay, this is going to be the nightly rate. On the basis of the nightly rate, this is what I'm going to make every month. But it's not quite as simple as that. It's very complex, because it just depends. Nightly rate varies, and a big chunk of it you will end up paying to the management company who will do the bookings, and you will pay to different platforms. So your expenses are quite high, your overheads are quite high as well, don't forget. So so just be mindful, educate yourself on this strategy. I'm not saying it's a bad strategy, of course it's a good strategy, but you should know enough so you make right decision. Don't just don't be so naive and just pick it with just with your eyes shut. That's what I'm trying to say, right? So that's your number two point was that always be aware of your competition. Now number three, I would say that you need to know what is your contingency plan. It's like when we took our SA units, we never knew this COVID was coming, and when we did our apartments, we did them from the scratch, and we took out the whole furniture that was in the apartment, and because we just wanted to do everything, posh and high end and everything. But then there came COVID, and this lockdown thing happened. And when this lockdown thing happened, people stopped traveling, and when people stopped traveling, we had no choice but to give our apartments to key workers, and to make it affordable we had to bring our nightly rate down. And what happened, we were not really making any profit, so we didn't have any. And it wasn't just us, many people were caught up in that situation, and it's not really anybody's fault. But what I'm trying to say is you need to be mindful that don't think we are out of it completely. This COVID thing is still happening on the other side of the world, so people are still suffering, and we just don't know what's around the corner. So don't put your hard-earned money just like that. Make sure that you are mindful and you have contingency plan, or whatever unit you are taking. In the worst case scenario, if there is going to be another wave, or if there is going to be another lockdown, how you're going to use that apartment or that property. And especially if you have agreed on high rent as well, because that's another thing I'm finding. When people are taking to run this SA unit, taking any property, any unit, they're just agreeing on higher rent as well with the landlord, thinking in their head that okay, they're going to make loads of money anyway, so they can easily afford. But don't forget, if there is going to be another lockdown, then there could be situation where you will have to charge lot less, which we did, and you will have to rent out to people just to keep your property full, so it's filled. Luckily we had so many other sources of income. We had HMO business running, and we had our own properties as well, so that was our saving grace. But if you're just starting out, and if this is going to be your first strategy, you need to make sure, and I am just finding it very risky at the moment for anybody, and I am personally not investing in something like in SA especially, because I am still not confident that it has gone. I feel that the risk is still looming there, and there could be another possibility. So you just need to be mindful. Or at least if you are taking any property, you need to make sure that you're negotiating your rent really hard with the landlord. So if there is going to be any situation, that you can still afford to give rent to the landlord, or whatever rent you're agreeing. So don't just blindly agree on high rent, because just in case things don't work out as we are hoping. Hopefully things will be fine, but just in case, you don't know, because we are still not out of it 100%. So that's my other thing. Do you have contingency plan? Do you know what you're gonna do? If you end up with this unit, and you have committed to pay rent for 3 years or 5 years, do you have any plans for it? How you gonna deal with it? That's that's my biggest concern, because people are just agreeing on very high rent, thinking that okay, we'll just keep our landlord happy and he will allow us to run it as a service accommodation. But just in case, if that doesn't happen, what will happen? How are you going to cope with it? Just think it through. Don't just make hasty decision. And this is the reason why I find SA business model very risky. I don't think, because I've done it and I don't feel that it is as lucrative as it has been marketed or advertised. Whereas I find HMO is, I've never had any issues. We've had like a full never had any void either, because there are always people who need to live somewhere, and when they move in, they are living there for 6 months, 12 months, or at least the very least they will stay in the property for 3 months. And because you've agreed on a set rent with the landlord, you've done your numbers, so in that case that it's a safer bet for you. I've never had a single void in my properties. I mean, there was case where there was a time when during even lockdown, people were desperate to move in, and I had to allow them to move in because there was this gentleman, professional guy, and he was in danger of becoming homeless because his contract was running out, from his previous property. And because his contract was running out and his parents didn't live local, he really needed somewhere to move. And I helped him, and during lockdown that was absolutely fine, because people, if they were, first lockdown happened, there were restrictions, but even then, if people were in danger of becoming homeless, we were allowed to do the viewings and we were allowed to let people move in. So that was absolutely fine. I'm only comparing both business models, and now I'm thinking that that was our saving grace actually. Now next thing I want to say that I'm finding so many, after this lockdown, so many people return their SA units back to the landlord. And the reason these sources are advertising so many SA units, because someone has returned those SA units. So what you really need to do, you need to think logically that this particular property with that rent, asking rent, hasn't worked in the past. So do I really want to take chance? Because obviously when you look at a property and you see that it has been set up very, very nicely, and you can very clearly see that definitely that property was being used as a service accommodation, and that's why it's of that standard. So what you really, people, which I'm finding really strange, that people don't think that why has that property been returned if SA is such a lucrative business. If service accommodation is supposed to be such a good business, then why people have returned those properties? So you really need to think logically as well, and don't be shy when you're doing your due diligence. Just make sure that you ask that question, that why, I mean, was this unit was being used as a service accommodation, and if it was, what was the reason that the previous SA operator returned that unit. You may not get a right answer, or you may not get honest answer, but at least you've done your bit, and then you can use your common sense. Then do I really want to take it? Because if it hasn't worked with that rent, with that asking rent, whatever asking rent they are asking for, would it work for me? So it's like maths. If it hasn't worked for someone else, how you expect it to work for yourself? So put yourself in that situation. So never be shy to if you really have your mind set on this SA business model, then you need to make sure that you ask for the right rent. You negotiate for that, because I personally see a lot of risk, because that's a clear sign that business model hasn't worked for someone. They've returned it, and now it's back on the market, and somebody's sourcing it, and you are taking it. So that's my big worry. I'm only telling you how I feel. Again, it's your business, so you guys need to think about how what's your take on it. But I just want to warn people, on, because I've lived through this whole scenario, so I kind of know, and I know all of a sudden there are a lot of properties, especially Birmingham, Liverpool, they were saturated just before COVID. So many people were running after this service accommodation business model, and as soon as this lockdown thing came, so many operators returned their property back to the landlord. And now what I'm finding, there are a lot of these SA units are available. They're back on the market again, and there are very clear signs that they have been used as SAs previously. So you need to make sure that you ask all these questions, that this business hasn't worked in that property with that rent. Do I really want to still take that risk? And I just find very hard that people are not really thinking hard enough before they are committing again, because somebody's done that mistake and you are ready to make that mistake again. So just make sure that you are checking it. Now I want to talk about point number 5. Point number 5 is when you are taking your SA unit, make sure first of all you learn how to do your numbers properly. And secondly, again, just like I say to my group, we need to make sure that we're getting our investment back out. Similarly, when you're setting up or doing your numbers for SA service accommodation, what you really need to check is how soon you're going to get your money back out. Because what I'm seeing around at the moment, any deals that I'm coming across, especially for service accommodation, the investment is taking a lot longer than 12 months, and sourcers are very happily sourcing those deals and people are very happily buying them. And I'm just thinking that, because it's a cash flow strategy, people should really be looking to get their money back out ASAP. So once their money out, then at least they are not in any danger, they are not in any risk, which people are not really thinking actually at the moment. And I'm finding it really, and that concerns me for everybody, because it's people's hard-earned cash, and what you really be looking for is to get your money back out. If it's going to take you more than 12 months, then obviously it's not a good deal. And do you really want to risk your money, in that deal for that long, especially when SA is still, it's still a slightly risky business model. So, and because other thing with the SA business model is you can't cut corners. You can't just, buy second-hand things, or you can't just use, things which are already there and they worn out. You need to buy brand new items. Mattresses, if they are not good enough, you need to get brand new mattresses. Furniture wise, yes, you need to get some really nice looking furniture, because people are going to come and they're going to use those units, those apartments as their holidays, for their holiday. So you need to make sure that they are up to that standard, because everybody else is doing. So you have a competition to beat. So you can't really afford to cut corners. So you need to be very realistic that if I'm going to use this business or this particular property as a service accommodation, how much money do I need to really invest in it? That's another thing. I'm finding that sourcers are telling the figure that this is how much money you need initially, but people are not really doing their own numbers properly, and they are just blindly trusting sourcers or whoever is giving them that deal, and they are thinking it's absolutely fine if we get money back out in 18 months time. To me personally, it's not really a good deal if it's going to take you that long to get even your original investment out. So you need to make sure that are you checking that you're going to get your money back out within given time, within 12 months or less than 12 months, because the shorter it is better. So that's very, very important. Don't leave your money in because you don't know how things are going to plan out at the moment. That's another thing I would say, because it's not quite as easy, or as you can't call it like a low investment, because that's the thing with service accommodation, because you do need to dress your property up really tastefully, and you do need to really go out of the way little bit to dress it nicely so it looks like, you know, a really decent, because it's all based on your reviews, you know, what type of reviews you get from people who come and stay in the property. So you cannot afford to cut corners there. You really need nice things there. You need brand new items. You know, if things are, you know, they're worn out there, if the furniture isn't good enough, you do need that. You know, you do need to replace. You can't really you know, make do with second-hand stuff, because this is how that business model is, you know. So just be mindful of that as well. So it's very, very important. Now another thing, point number 6, very, very important, and that is landlord really need to be checking. He needs to check, has he got right type of mortgage for that property, you know, has he got right type of insurance? Because hi Shirley-Ann, hi Jehu, and thank you for coming on board. So that's very, very important. I mean, I know it is landlords, again it's landlord's responsibility, but be mindful that if just in case you know, if the mortgage company finds out, and if it is just like a normal buy to let mortgage that he has, which doesn't really allow this landlord to use it as short let, and he's allowing you, and somehow if the mortgage company finds out, he will be forced to ask you to terminate, or you know, he will be forced to terminate your contract, and it's your hard-earned cash, and you will end up losing that property. So that's another reason you need to make sure that you're getting your money back out ASAP, because you are risking your money, you know. So it's even more important for you. Another thing, they need to have right type of insurance in place. Now we don't know how many landlords are actually checking that. If it's a fully paid property, then it's a different matter, but if it has got mortgage, and if mortgage doesn't allow these landlords to run those properties as a service let or as short let, then if they find out, they can be in trouble, and then they can be forced to terminate your contract. That's brilliant, Neil. Yes, you are not looking at essay. So yes, that's very true. That's very good. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so definitely landlords, they need to check. I mean, I know it's their responsibility, but ultimately it's going to be your money that will be, you know, in risk. This because it's your business. You are risking your money, you know, in that property. So landlord needs to have right type of insurance, and landlord needs to have right type of mortgage, and it's their responsibility to check it. And if you want to make sure that you are fully secured, you need to check with them that, you know, have they got right type of insurance, and have they got right type of mortgage. Now I don't know how many people actually ask their landlords, you know, this question, because they're scared. They feel that if they ask landlord this question, it will put them off straight away, you know. And I think it's more important for SA than for HMO, because with HMO, because it's an HMO that already, I mean, that has already got certain type of mortgage. If landlord has a mortgage, that already allows them for multi-let anyway, so that's absolutely fine. Whereas in normal buy-to-let apartment, if he's using it for short let, he's not really you know, he's not really using it for whatever he's been given permission to do. So in that case, you know, this landlord can be in trouble with the mortgage company. Similarly, if there is any damage to the property, insurance, he can't claim insurance because he is given wrong information to his insurance company. So it's really his responsibility that he gets right type of insurance for it. So it's very, very important. Now number 7, very, very important point, and I see this so much, and I just wonder why they're not aware of it, or why are people so naive about this. And number 7 point is the 90-day rule. Very, very important. Now I see so many units being advertised in London area, around London area, in within greater London area, for SA units. Yeah, they look really nice, and people feel that yes, London is a capital city, and yes, if we get a unit there, obviously we're going to make some really great money. But how many people know about this 90-day rule? Because in London, you can't really, if a property is in within London, Greater London area, you cannot use any residential property for more than 90 days as a short let, as a service accommodation. Because if you are, that means you are breaching planning permission. So you need to make sure that when you are looking for a property within London, and if you have that business model in mind where you want to run it as a service accommodation, that by law you should not really be doing short lets for more than 90 days out of 365 days in that particular property. And if somebody is doing that, that means they are definitely in breach. And what will happen if somebody complains about that property, then that operator as well as the owner can be they can be in trouble by the planning department, because they are in breach. Because ideally these properties which have been run throughout the year, as a service accommodation, they should have planning permission from the planning department, and they should be classed as a commercial unit. And many people don't even know about this rule, and they just work around the system. And this, because this is happening more and more, it's gonna get people in a big danger, because they will end up losing their big investment that they are putting into these properties, especially rent to renters. So this 90-day rule, you should really read up on it if you are living in and around London area, and if you are looking to start your SA business in London area, you should have a very good understanding of this 90-day rule. Because if you don't follow it, you're going to get in trouble, because this is happening so much that council, planning departments, they are taking note of it. And I was just listening to this podcast the other day, and I found out that they actually, because there are so many complaints are being made now by people, council is going to take very, very strict action on that. So how many people are aware of it? Because now what they say, actually Airbnb platform, they have a system where they can actually check how many days that property, a particular property, has been used as a service accommodation. Now many people can run it illegally, but then again you're risking your money, so that's another thing. You really need to make sure that you are aware of all these things, because there are so many rules around this whole thing. And I think because it just has gone so far, and everybody just thinks that SA business model is a very lucrative business model, it just gives you easy money, you don't have to give contract to anybody. That means you can just rent out rooms, and people will pay you nightly rate, and you will make huge amount every month, and it will give you massive cash flow of £1,000 or £1,500 or whatever, some silly amount. But it's not quite as simple as that. So you really need to be mindful of all these things. So I hope, guys, these are 7 points I wanted to talk about today. Because I feel that people are very, very naive, and they are making decision, and they're running after this whole strategy just without even thinking and learning about it. Maybe it will be a good idea when we are out of it little bit, and even then, if you go into service accommodation, make sure that you understand and you learn all the legalities, you learn all the technical side of things as well. It's very, very important for you, because otherwise it's your hard-earned money. It's very easy for landlord to give you notice and ask you to terminate contract, and at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your investment, and last thing I want to see is you guys losing money on it. So it just worries me, and I thought today's live I'm going to talk about this, because I've lived through this, and I know exactly how risky it can be. Especially many people, they just feel, they live somewhere else and they want to get their property remotely. If they're living somewhere in Midlands, or they're living in North and they want to get their property in London or somewhere in South, and they feel that, okay, we'll just take our property, we'll hire a management company, and then that management company will run for us, we'll pay them 15%. But it's not quite as simple as that, before you even get to that stage, we need to do so many checks. And more than anything, just check, look around, like, how many people are just running after this business model, so madly, without even thinking logically. Yeah. Hi Shirley-Ann, you're saying something. Yes, Neil, you're saying, sorry Sapna, I'm not looking at essay, so I'll see you on the next one. Yeah, definitely. And again, that's very interesting. So the property will be empty more than occupied. Yeah, that's right, Shirley-Ann. So what they're supposed to do, people actually supposed to use their property as a service accommodation for maximum 90 days, and after 90 days they're supposed to really let that property out for longer term, for on a short hold tenancy agreement. So they should not really be using it, and this is what is happening. People are breaching this law, and because so many people are running it illegally, what's happening now, councils and these authorities are noticing these things more, and what will happen eventually, there will be a clamp down on it. I can see that coming. So it is a very risky business model, especially around London. So if that's why it's better to run it outside London if somebody is really thinking, but just be mindful. There are a lot of things. I am no, Shirley-Ann, it's not the case at the moment. It's not the case in other areas, but definitely it may happen. But at the moment, no, I don't think it is. I mean, I know there are many other cities, in UK, not in UK, but other cities, in Europe as well, where they have this rule. I know that. God, it's gone out of my mind, but I'll tell you, there is another city in Holland where this rule applies as well, again, and this is going to happen more and more. Actually, that's what different councils are at the moment, they are considering, because residents are complaining because more and more people are using their units as service accommodations, because they feel that it's a lucrative way of making money. They can just charge anything to renters, people who want to run these properties as service accommodation. So and then these concerns that there is not going to be enough properties for people for normal tenants. So that's the reason why there is more and more concern with regards to this strategy. But certain things we really need to check, so just everybody needs to make sure that they're doing their due diligence on everything. Okay, so thank you very much everybody for your company. Yes, that's right. That's very true, Shirley-Ann. Yes, you have to keep on top of it. Yeah, very, very true. Yeah. Take care then, everybody. Bye-bye.